Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of my team selector ahead of the game at home to Leeds tomorrow night in the Premier League. So many ways to look at this game. Historically, the rivalry between Chelsea and Leeds, the subplot of Lampard versus Bielsa based on Lampard's time at Derby. I think the big thing for me positively is, albeit in a limited capacity, Chelsea fans returning to Stamford Bridge for the first time since March. It's a small but positive step in the right direction of getting fans back into stadiums safely, and hopefully in 2021 we'll have Stamford Bridge back at full capacity, because that would be a great thing for Lampard and his team and just generally the club. But getting into this game, team news. Frank Lampard confirming with a smile on his face in his pre-match press conference that Chelsea are at full strength going into this game. No injury concerns for the Leeds game, and that's just amazing. And you have to almost pinch yourself thinking about Lampard saying we have no injury concerns. No injury concerns at all for Chelsea feels quite weird based on the problems we had last season, consistently throughout last season, and going into such a hectic period of the season during Christmas. It's so key that Lampard has a full deck to play with, so that's a real positive. But looking at Leeds, our opposition tomorrow night, it's going to be a real big test, because Leeds are such a unique opposition, such an intense opposition under Marcelo Bielsa, and they're uncompromising. They're not going to do what Jose did last week with Spurs. They're not going to sit back and defend deep. They're going to be progressive. They're not going to be reactive. They want the ball. They want to attack. They want to be high pressing. They want to attack in numbers. They really want to go at you. No matter who they've played so far in the Premier League, every team has had to struggle and face that basically. I think the thing is about Leeds tomorrow, as I say, not only Chelsea thinking about shutting down their biggest threats, I think there is opportunity for Chelsea to get behind Leeds based on their high line, based on their style of play, but it can have real positive and benefits to Leeds. That performance against Man City earlier in the season was a prime example of them, with their style of play, really getting at top opposition, and that's what Chelsea need to be wary of tomorrow night at the Bridge. Just focusing in on some of their key players, looking at their last 11 here on the screen, I firstly think, shutting down Calvin Phillips, a key passer from deep, and you look at N'Golo Kante in terms of interceptions and trying to shut that down, try and not let him have a lot of the ball. I just wonder as well, pressing from the front from Chelsea in terms of who Lampard picks up top, I think will be key within this as well. But Calvin Phillips, very dangerous player, and gets their sort of tempo flowing from deep, and those passes into attackers that can be really dangerous and effective as well. On top of passing from deep from Calvin Phillips, the attacking from wide areas from Alioski and Rafinha scoring a brilliant winner at Goodison Park last week in that 1-0 win for Leeds against Everton. And lastly, of course, I can't forget the name of Patrick Bamford, former Chelsea player, academy graduate, unfortunately never made it at the Bridge. I think context is everything with a player like Bamford, and looking at his Chelsea career. Unfortunately, when he was at the club and sort of growing in his career, we had Diego Costa as our main striker. Jose Mourinho was head coach based on his track record with bringing up young players. I wonder, for a lot of young sort of Chelsea players in the past that were thinking about breaking into the side, they'd love to be under Frank Lampard now, a little bit younger. The likes of Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi are flourishing currently in the first team and getting those opportunities that unfortunately Bamford never had at the club. But it's great to see he's made himself a great career at Leeds in the Premier League, scoring goals, one of the top goal scorers so far in the Premier League. He's going to be absolutely motivated to come to the Bridge tomorrow night, cause a shock and prove Chelsea wrong, and really score another big goal for Leeds. He's been so impressive so far this season. But going into my team, and I think this game for me particularly benefits certain, especially attacking players within Chelsea's squad. I look at certain players within our squad, and I think this could be a game where they can really flourish. I feel like they're going to get space. I feel like they can attack that space well. I think Chelsea could have a lot of joy against Leeds' defence tomorrow night. But it's about that balance within play and understanding the threats Leeds pose. They are uncompromising. They may leave space in behind with a high line that can benefit our fast players in attack. But as well, it's about that defence being rigid, resilience, having the balance in midfield, which we've seen recently, and having that consistency of performance. It's going to be difficult tomorrow night, but I do believe an informed Chelsea can get a result. But let's go into my team. Firstly, Edouard Mendy in between the sticks, the most clean sheets in the Premier League so far this season. Let me know in the comments, is Edouard Mendy Chelsea's best player so far this season? The best signing we made in the summer? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, starting again tomorrow, let's hope he keeps another clean sheet, more record breaking. I believe if he keeps a clean sheet tomorrow, he will level rival Kepa Arrizabalaga's clean sheets of last season. So that was from the start of last season, 10 clean sheets for Chelsea if he gets one tomorrow at the Bridge. The good thing about our first choice back four, all of them were fully rested in midweek against Sevilla. Frank Lampard heavily rotating in this area. So I do feel like the first choice back four will be reinstated tomorrow by Frank Lampard. Reece James, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell. Just on Ben Chilwell, he has been nominated for Premier League Player of the Month in November. Very well deserved, and I think he's been one of Chelsea's most consistent performers so far this season, one of our best players as well. So great to see him being nominated for that, as well as Lampard being nominated for November Premier League Manager of the Month as well. Going into midfield, I think N'Golo Kante is going to be key to shutting down the likes of Calvin Phillips, definitely pressing from the front, and Kante has been amazing so far this season. He really has, and is excelling in this lone DM role at the moment in that midfield three for Lampard. Alongside him, Mason Mount didn't start in midweek, did come off the bench, but I think in a high-intensity game, the energy of Mason Mount and the pressing of Mason Mount is going to be absolutely key. So I think Mason will be starting alongside N'Golo Kante once again. And finishing off this midfield three, I think Kai Havertz will be starting in the Premier League once again. He started in midweek, set up the first goal for Olivier Giroud against Sevilla. And just that space in between the lines, those runs from deep, I feel like this is a game that can benefit Kai. I feel Kai can get a lot of joy potentially against this Leeds side. I think he can find space in between the lines, picking up pockets of space, driving from deep, potentially setting up chances for whoever's playing in front of him. So I think Kai Havertz should be starting. It's an attacking midfield three, but I'd love to see it start tomorrow against Leeds because Chelsea do need to attack well against such an intense side. Looking at that front three, firstly Hakim Ziyech, another player that came off the bench late but mostly got rested on Wednesday. Not only looking at Ziyech and the way he'll play in this game, I think it's essential Chelsea get overlaps from Reece James, which is always key to the way we attack, but also Ziyech cutting in onto his left. Not only crosses just generally into the box, but I also think those diagonal crosses over the top of the Leeds defence could bring Chelsea a lot of joy tomorrow. And Ziyech, as we know, as Chelsea's chief creator, can be a devastating player if you give him space and if he's on form. On the left, I feel this is a game made for Timo Werner. I think this is a game that Timo will look at as a chance to really flourish, to really wreak havoc to that Leeds defence. You know, if Leeds defence and their press isn't coordinated and isn't right, and Chelsea, like with Ziyech, potentially a ball over the top, I feel Werner can exploit the space here. He didn't get a lot of space last weekend against a very rigid Spurs side, but I do feel he'll get space against Leeds tomorrow night. So I think Timo has to be starting just in this 11, whether it's up top, whether on the left. I think he can do a lot of good tomorrow night for Chelsea in attack. And finally, up top, I think it's got to be Olivier Giroud. He scored 4 goals in midweek. He had an amazing performance. There is an argument, and I absolutely understand it, right? That you could even argue you shift Werner to the central role here. You put Pulisic on the left. You put Hudson-Odoi even on the right. I'd still think Ziyech is going to start this game creatively, but add as much pace into this front line as possible because this is the way you want to expose Leeds' high line, right? But I just think a form player like Olivier Giroud, goal scoring, I think especially with Ziyech, crosses into the box like we saw last week. Reece James crosses into the box. I feel like you want to play a player that's in form, and currently that is Olivier Giroud, and I think he just deserves to start this game for Chelsea. So that is my lineup of my team selector for the game tomorrow against Leeds. What is your lineup? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonofChelsea, and I'll see you again.